And welcome to the Power of Integrity. Today we have on an unbelievable guest, Wing Lam with Wahoo's. Anyone who's in Southern California, even across the country, and in Japan, and you can tell that story yourself, Wing.
Okay.
You know about Wahoo's fish tacos, one of the greatest places to go and have a relaxing meal, a great meal, a healthy meal, and just a well-run establishment now for I don't know how many years. You can tell our audience about it. Well, Wing, we're going to talk about the power of integrity, but first I want to give you a chance to speak about all the things going on in your world, professionally, personally. You are one master.
Well, we just finished the US Open of Surfing. We just finished the WSL World Championships at Trussos in San Clemente. We're a part of all that. So it's fun to have one of our fellow friends, John, win his third world title and to be a part of all that. So this is kind of like the future now. But if you go back 36 years ago, we were basically your mom and pop little taco shop in Costa Mesa. And I had this crazy idea with my two little brothers, Ed and Mingo. They go, "Hey, I think if we want to be an authentic, place where surfers can hang out, maybe we should do some of these events and partner up with them." And again, sounds like a great idea on paper, but good luck trying to partner up with, I call these massive worldwide global brands, right? Luckily
Yes,
for us, at the time, nobody was interested in supporting what I call this non-sport sport, surfing. It was kind of like I called the outcast guys that couldn't really play any real sports. They surfed, they skateboarded, guys that couldn't ski, snowboarded. I mean, you know what I'm getting at. So we were kind of like the outside, that's where the word X, whatever you want to call
I
it,
was
right?
going to say, right?
Yeah,
Extra,
extra. So basically, I mean,
excommunicated.
fast forward, it's in the Olympics. It's, you got the X Games, you got all that. But 36 years ago was basically a little 10 by 10 tent in the middle of, the snow, the beach,
Yes.
somebody's backyard, and you had a little skate contest. And who knew that supporting these kids, 36 years ago would end up, in the Olympics today? So we've been synonymous with it. People think I'm really smart. I'm like, well, one, I didn't have the budget to go support the NFL or MLB or any of that stuff, right? So it was by default. And plus, I like hanging out with all my fellow surfers. So that's kind of how it started. We became the go-to place for the action sports industry. People thought it was really cool that I'd be willing to show up to their contests wherever it happened to be, bring some really nice food, and so it kind of like it drove them back to the restaurant. And that's the first time that things started working out. Is people would sample and go, wow. But then again, when you're sampling something against nothing, it's really easy to do. Today is a lot harder. You really got to wow them, But back then it
Yes.
was like, okay, what do I got to compete with? A bologna sandwich? Come on, I got to,
I got this one.
yeah.
So, Wing, maybe tell our audience about how you got started in the pedigree with your parents and their restaurant and all of that, because it dates back even further than 36 years, doesn't it?
Well, I got lucky that my parents, traveled the world. It started right after World War II. If you didn't leave communist China right after the war, you're pretty much stuck there for the next 50 years. So they ended up going from China to Hong Kong to Japan, and then of all places, ended up in South America, Brazil. Thanks for that. And that's where the four of us were born and raised. My oldest brother was born in China, but the rest of us were in Brazil. And sometime in the late 60s, my dad saw another great opportunity to actually come to America. So he came first. And then within a few years, I had a very successful restaurant on Balboa Island in Newport Beach. So he thought, hey, I need some free labor. I need the kids to come and work, so we can make even more money. And he missed having us around.
And that's
So
you and your two brothers, right?
yeah, me and actually the four of us. My oldest brother was already here, so the four of us, came here in January of 1975,
Wow.
and the crash course, English was basically learned at the restaurant. None of us spoke any real English to say we could count to 10, and that was about the extent of our English. So we ended up here, I know, and of all things, Newport Beach was a cool place, but it was about as far from Brazil as you can be, and there weren't that many Asian kids at the time in Newport Beach. So in trying to fit in, we wanted to do things that the kids at, in Newport did. So we ended up, I my kid brother started surfing, but right away I was like, not that good at it yet. I surf today, but I started playing water polo of all things, and
Oh,
we struggled, but somehow managed to make it through high school. And then after college, I went to San Diego State, and a lot of the road trips south of the border. That's where the fish tacos. Because whenever Ed and Mingo would come down to San Diego to visit their older brother, we go down south of the border, go surfing, and have some tacos. And upon graduating, I did my not honorable thing. I did go work for Rockwell International on the space shuttle program. That lasted a few years, but it was kind of like not that exciting for me. And my kid brother Ed was coming out, and Ed goes, "What are you going to do?" I goes, "Well, this corporate thing really isn't all that exciting." And we were all going to go to law school to join our other brother's law firm, a very successful practice. My other brother's already going to med school. So we're like, what are we going to do? And we go, well, what do we know how to do, as we say, in our sleep, right? We know how to make food, but we never owned our own restaurant, but it was that, hey, if anything, we like to surf, we like to go to the beach. So maybe this is the beginning also the themed restaurant chains, like you had the Hard Rock Cafe, Planet Hollywood. So we thought, maybe something that was themed would be kind of cool. So that's what we said, hey, why not make it like a surf place? And we thought, whatever, right? Let's see what happens. And within a couple of months, the surfers all came, you know, and they
yeah.
said, "Hey, we realize that you guys go to work every day in t-shirts and shorts. Can we get you guys some t-shirts and shorts?" And we're like, "Wow, are you kidding me? Of course, we love to get some t-shirts and shorts." And we started the old bartering system, and then I said, "Hey, you got events?" And they're like, "Yeah, but we have no budget." I went, "Well, we can barter for some more stuff because we love the t-shirts and shorts." So Billabong was our first one, then Quicksilver, then Gotcha, then Susie, all the big brands. They all came around. They're like, "Hey, love to have
Well,
you do our
wonderful.
events." Yeah.
What a wonderful story from a little spark of an idea that turned
Yep.
into what it's turned into now as an empire, just about, right?
Yep. We got
Yeah,
a few stores.
you've done a great job. Maybe just tell the group just a little bit more about the stores, the states, the countries.
Well, we got one as far as Japan. One of my friends, Yoshi, is a sushi chef, decided to go back home. So we have basically a wonderful restaurant on a rooftop. And there's a skate park there in Tokyo. So all the kids, right after the Olympics, they all went there, right? So pretty cool little gig. And then obviously in the early 90s, I like to snowboard. So a buddy of mine moved to Denver. So we opened Denver stores because you can't go to the mountains unless land in Denver first. So that's been going almost 30 some years later, right? So it's been great. They got about a dozen stores there. Then Vegas was a natural because everybody goes to Vegas for all the shows and all that.
Yes.
So we got about half a dozen stores there. Then we went to the East Coast all the way to New Jersey because people surf out there as well. So we got Northern California, and then one of the kids that really, John went to school at UCI, and upon graduating, he was on the swim team at UCI from Fresno, of all places, and said, "Hey, there's this great little taco shop that I go to all the time. They support our program, and maybe I want to do that." So you got a bunch of cow farmers, milk guys, that not only know, what is it called? Not Dairy Queen, but Stone Cold Creamery. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
and so they have a few of those stores and have a couple of Wahoos. So it's been like a nice adventures. Along the way, we've lost a few. COVID wasn't really kind to a lot of us. So, there's some that are gone, but for the most part, everybody seems to be doing really well.
Yeah, and you've helped people, which I learned about recently. You've helped other folks through your franchise system because some are
Yeah.
company stores, some are franchise system. There could be a listener aspiring to how do I get started in the restaurant business, and or I already am in the restaurant business, but I'd like to expand and have a replicatable, repeatable process. and Wahoo's offers that franchise opportunity. Maybe just touch on that. Not that that's our topic for today, but I'd be remiss not to give air to that.
Oh yeah, so I remind everybody it's a great opportunity to go to work, not to sit back and make money. And the money will come if you do the hard work. So we have the systems in place, we have the brand in position, all that, 36 years. But I tell everybody it's not an easy, oh yeah, this is a great way for me to just relax. I mean, we like our partners, our franchisees to be hands-on, so all of them are, and you'll have a great time. You'll be, I call it, the coolest guy in your neighborhood because it's just we make really good food. So I would say have your systems in place if you are thinking about it, but think about like what are you really selling, right? We're selling, I call it active Southern California lifestyle. We are literally friends with the people you see hanging on the walls of our restaurant. They are regular patrons of our establishment whenever they're in town. So it is authentic in that sense. We're not just buying surfboards and putting them up as props. I mean, these are signed boards by guys that have won world titles. I mean, we have a handful of Kelly Slater's boards, Mark Richards boards, and now John is coming on as a three-time. So this is kind of like we don't just say it; we actually do it.
You live
I
it.
mean, Tony
Yeah.
Hawk, yeah, all these guys that have they're now either retired or they're still on the tour. They all happen to come in the restaurants, and we are serving food at all these events. I mean, we're not just you know talking about it, we're actually serving. So it's a lot of work, and then basically it's systems in place and a great brand, and you might be able to start a franchise.
Yeah, which springboards us into you're walking your walk, which is clearly a principle of integrity.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and how you know maybe comment a little bit about integrity, how it plays a role professionally and personally in your life, and how it leads to customer loyalty or not, employer employee loyalty, and all the pieces there. Maybe weave for us that fabric of what goes on in
Yeah.
integrity in your world.
Well, the good thing is sometimes you there's a correlation between integrity and faith, right? But I can tell you, not all people that go to church do the right thing. Okay, so let's just leave it at that, right? Because at the end of the day, you still gotta have purpose and integrity, right? So what is your goal of doing whatever it is that you're doing, right? And does it mean that you can step over people to get to where you want to go? Or can we do it all together, right? So a lot of people talk about win-win, or is it win at all costs, right? So there's a big difference. So I'm a firm believer that integrity means that everybody on your team wins or we all lose together, but I'm not going to win at somebody else's expense or lose at somebody else's expense, right? So it's okay if we don't make money, it's okay if we make money, but we're all going to do it together. And that's it. To me, that's the real definition of integrity. It's your intent, right? So to me,
Yes,
a lot of people will do things at all costs. And that to me is not a really good person to be with because you might be one of the costs, right? So in other words, if I can get rid of you and or step on you on the way to my victory or whatever that means, then you're going to be taken out along the way, right? So I
yes,
think, and if you can't shake hands with somebody, that's probably not a person you want to do business with because we all know in the state of California, a piece of paper is not going to hold you to it. That's why there's a lot of attorneys out here, right? So I think at the end of the day, you want to do business with people that really believe in everybody's well-being, not just theirs, right? I think that's
yes.
really the big key.
Yeah, you had used the word connected, and an extension of integrity is integrated,
Yeah.
and we are integrated and connected. I believe that from a universal perspective, but clearly, when we're doing a business transaction, we are connected, and having integrity does apply.
Yeah.
And how does it extend to, say, your employee loyalty base? How do you see integrity working there with your own staff, and when it comes to coming to work each day and doing the things we need to do, and meeting our customers, patrons at the front with
Well,
integrity?
it's the old, treat others the way you like to be treated, right? So I think we are very respectful of all the people that work for us. I treat them as family. So that means tough love. There is a job here to do. We're not just here having fun. right? But at the end of the day, let's have some fun while we work, right? So we provide, I think, a pretty cool environment for people to, earn a decent living, be treated fairly and respected. So at the end of the day, all those things, it's just, it makes sense. Again, I'm not making money off of my employees' hard work. It's the same thing, right? I want us all to work together and all make money and all be rewarded accordingly and have fun. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of tough love. It's a big family. I've had, employees. I have now their second generation, their kids working for us. So in our business, you'll find very, very few second generation, employees. But their parents really respect. And every now and then, when somebody does leave us, for whatever reason, they're moving out of town, or whatever cause it, they're very grateful for their time with us, which is, you don't see that. You see people basically say, hey, gotta go. But they always know that they're welcome. But it's fun. I mean, the other day I had a conversation with one of our long time employees, and he was like, hey, it's time for me to go, but I really appreciate everything that I've done here, everything that I learned. And he may end up opening his own restaurant, which is, again, great for him, but we'll be right here if he needs our help.
That's fantastic. Wing, can you describe for me and the audience a time when your integrity was tested and how you responded?
There's been multiple times, I would say, because, you're like, come on, really? But at the end of the day, it's really not worth it, I call it, right? So I'm just going to make a mental note that it happened. There's no revenge in my world, right? But karma has a way of coming back, right? And I'll use, a great, a few examples that you will love is promoters, for instance, are notoriously over promising, under delivering. And big reason is, if you got 10 sponsors and you really only have, I call it, 8 ways to take care of people, right? Somebody's going to get the short end of it. You decide, well, who of the 10 is going to get the short end, and usually, the guy that has the least amount of leverage at the end of the event, i.e., somebody like me, right? Because once you serve the food, you're pretty much have no use for the event anymore, right? So then you're like, hey, I'm really sorry, but I know I promised you all this, but and in your head you go, really, you didn't know there's 10 of us? How do you run short? Did you
Yes.
know you were going to run short? And when I say short, it could be money, it could be tickets, it could be anything you want it to be. But obviously, they had no intention of fulfilling their end of the bargain, right? And once the event is over, what are you going to do? Cry over spilled milk? But
No.
we'll make a mental note and goes, given the opportunity, I'm going to warn all my friends never to work with this guy. Or if you are, get everything you want on the front end of the event, not at the back end. So I've been able to save a lot of my friends a lot of grief, because they're like, well, thank you, Wing. And I'm like, I'm just letting you know, this is what happened to me. Do you want it to happen to you? Go for it. And some people chose not to listen, and it happened to them. And I'm like, didn't I tell you? And they go, yeah, but I didn't believe you. I'm like, well, because some promoters are so polished, right? They'll tell you whatever you want to hear.
Yes.
And then there's salespeople. There's all kinds of people that are pretty much have no intention. So just make a note of that and let your friends know that if anybody's ever going to do business with that person or that company, that they have no intentions of doing their part of the bargain, right? So
Yeah.
you learn. And then, I mean, along the way, there's events guys, there's all kinds of guys and brands. I mean, I did run into another guy the other day, and I just thought, wow, all these years later, and you think he could just say, hey, Wayne, how about a little something for your team? As opposed to me going, hey, can I take care of your team? And there was no like, hey, can I get you something? And in that moment, goes, the guy hasn't changed, you know.
Right.
But I'm gonna extend the little flag and I'm gonna do my part. But I'm like, wow, right? And his job, just like my job, is to give stuff away at the event. But the fact that he didn't offer anything back, I'm like, wow, is still the same 30 years later. So I'll make a mental note. If I ever
Yes.
come across him, I goes, guess what? I'm not going to ask for you anything because I'm always like, hey, and most people are like, hey, Wing, would you like a T-shirt? Would you like a hat? Nah, I'm fine, but just to offer, right? It's
Yeah.
nice that you don't have to ask for it. Yeah.
Yes.
So those people, they're out, they're still out there, and
Yeah.
that's why they're not as successful as they could be. They're
Yeah.
just they,
There is the power of reciprocity, isn't there? And
there
as we
is.
do unto another, so also is done unto us.
Yes, and the whole thing is
Golden rules.
there's the golden rule, but the biggest thing is find the people that are givers and not takers. 99% of the world are takers. They'll never do anything back for you. Just make a note. They paid for my services and call it a day
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's a transactional relationship. It's not a long term. It's not a, hey, let me get you a referral, let me tell you about my cousin could use your service. It's not going to be that. It's what's in it for me right now. I'm paying you and done. That's okay. Just know
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes a zero sum game in some
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
You and I have spent a lot of time around philanthropy and nonprofits, charity, and there was a term. One of the fellows, I'll credit the gentleman's name, Alan Pratt from Seattle, Washington. Alan was the president of the National Association of Advisors in Philanthropy. In fact, I even think it was referred to as the International Association of Advisors in Philanthropy. And Alan said we have to stop being go-getters and start being go-givers.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like if you make money, it's not like that you have to, but it's the right thing to do because giving somebody the opportunity, give them a hand may get them out, and I mean, I look at one, probably the only time in my life where I could see a direct benefit, like doing something and immediately, I think it was about 12, 13 years ago now. I went and did a reality show on ABC called The Secret Millionaire. And in it, it was exactly 13 years ago now that I think of it, because at the time I had just turned 50 and I'm about to turn 63. So it was 13 years ago. So in the episode, you go undercover and you pretend you're out of work and you do all these things, right? And again,
Yes.
you help the charity. That's, the thing that you have to do as part of
Yes.
the film. That's the storyline, kind of like the undercover boss. But in it, they will also show you some things that are happening, and it's up to you to see if you want to do something about it or not. And that's not part of the show. But it'll make for great content, and that's what they tell you. If you did this, you make for a great story. I'm like, well, what the hell? But it's going to cost you more money to do it. Okay,
Yes.
so in the show, I meet a guy who happens to be homeless, who happened to be the same age as I am. So we're both 50, and I'm looking at this guy, and he's not a druggie, he's not anything, right? But it was, I call it the world of unfortunate events. So he gets divorced, moves to this town, and then is a construction worker, and in the middle of this he gets into a car accident,
Oh.
and then all of a sudden he can't get to work to the construction site, and then somebody steals all his tools. So you're talking now, all of a sudden you're homeless because you can't make money, you can't pay your rent, and all of a sudden he's living in the streets. And I remember him telling me that the first night that it rained, he couldn't just sleep out on the outside. He had to sleep sitting in a porta potty because there was an event. Because we happened to be walking by, and he pointed to me, he goes, I've spent the night in one of these things. Now, if you've ever been inside of porta potties, there's that chemical smell. And in my head, I'm like, how can you sleep here? But it was either that or torrential rain. So, so the long story is, I found out that he had his stuff together, but the missing link was a truck. Because with a truck, he could literally get his stuff together and go to work. So they said something to me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna find me a truck. So I found an F 150, for like $15,000, whatever, and I gave it to him at the end of the show. Come to find out, 13 years later, he's still working. It completely turned his life around. The truck, because I went back to Mobile, Alabama, 2 years later to to do the show a year later, whatever. And he was the only person that I didn't see. And the person that ran the shelter told me he's back, he's working, and he didn't want to be here. And I'm like, I'm okay. I have not seen Michael in 13 years since I did the show. And I'm like, I expect nothing of it, but the fact that I was able to put him back on track, that's, I said, I've done a lot of things in my life, but that
Phenomenal.
one was, so if you ever get to see it, you can go on Google and the Secret Millionaire on ABC. It was an amazing experience, life changing, the things that you can do. And the thing that I did for the two local charities, they said, Wayne, how are we going to sustain what you did? Because I gave them some money, got them, gave them some ideas. And I said, here's the thing, there's this thing called Southern Pride. Okay. That means all you got to ask is your board of directors, do we need to have the little Asian kid from California show us how to do our job? The answer is nope. We know how to do this. So I basically taught them how to fish, and I stay in touch with them. And we talk about once every 6 months, once a year. And we talk about this. So again, it's to show them how to do something. It's not
Yes.
just, give them the money, but it's show
Right.
them the model on how to be sustainable.
Yeah, on a path forward and
Yes.
sustainability for sure. Yeah, one of the other guests had talked about, we were talking about synonyms for integrity, and the classic ones that come up are honesty, transparency, consistency. You and I
Yep.
talked about that prior on another
Yep.
occasion, and sustainability. Can you
Yep.
continue to do this over and over? And handing that person a hand up, not a hand out,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Change their entire trajectory going forward.
Yep.
Tell me how transparency plays a role in your business as well as in your personal life.
You gotta, people these days can see right through you. So don't be telling them that you live, a certain way and when you don't, right? So we're promoting healthy, good for you, food and all that. It still tastes amazing, but it's got to be, somewhat part of my life every day, right? So like
Yes,
this morning, it's 6:30 in the morning, and one of my friends sees me out going to surf, and he goes, "Wow, you actually do this?" I go, "What do you think I do? I'm not just talking about surfing, and I don't surf myself, right?" So as we say, transparency is like walk the walk, right? Don't tell people you go to church and then you're at the bar the rest of the day drinking. I'm like, come on. Did you go to church so you can spend the next 6 hours watching 10 football games? I mean, nothing wrong with it, right? But
yes,
you know what I mean? Maybe watch a little bit of it and spend the rest of it with your family and like do something a little more productive, right? And
yes,
nothing against watching football, right? But I think, the marathon of watching all that is just a little bit, unproductive in some ways, right? And
yes,
again, we all need a little time off. We all need a little space and all that. But to me, it's all enjoy it, right? Do the activity. Maybe play football with your kids, not just watch it, with your buddies and be drinking. And again, nothing wrong with it. I mean, sports bars are very profitable, you know.
yes,
But I think there's a little bit of balance in that whole thing, and that's what I really transparency is like. Come on, I see so many guys talking, and I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Look at the way you live your life. Are you
yes,
really, and you're not fooling me,
yeah. Now we have in the audience some young entrepreneurs. What advice would you have about the role of integrity when it comes to trying to get your feet planted on the ground professionally and in business or just in their career?
The whole thing applies is like getting guys to like me to mentor you, right? Don't just ask me for the easy ways to get there. Ask me about the hard ways to get there, right?
Hmm.
And be willing to sacrifice, be willing to do the hard work, right? Because so many people are like, well, I'm going to get a mentor, find all the easy ways to get there. I'm like, that's not, the journey is the fun, right? The school of hard knocks, right? So yes, the practice so that you can make that winning shot. So this is what I'm talking about. It's like, hey, integrity to me is purpose, all that. Just be open, right? Just say, hey, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to do what it takes, right? Because we want to see you succeed. I mean, I want to see all my friends in the restaurant business succeed. I don't want them to fail, right? But I can tell you, the ones that fail, shortcuts. They try to go, I think I can do it this way. It'd be much quicker. I'm like, do we all know? Hard work. You can't win games. You can't do anything without hard work. But there
Yes.
is no shortcut. Every now and again, you get lucky. You get a break. But most of those breaks come because of your hard work, right? So integrity, again, you're going to take my time, do your part, right? That's what it is, right? I'm willing to give you advice. I'm willing to show you the ropes. I'm willing to allow you to not fall in all these big holes, all the pits, right? But at the same time, show a little gratitude, show a little integrity, show that you care, show that you're giving back, show that you're part of the community, right? So it's the paying it forward because I'm giving it to you. Don't just take it, use it and pay it forward.
Yes. You remind me of two things. One, about the metaphor of the Dead Sea and the Red Sea.
Mm.
The Dead Sea has but one inlet and no outlet.
Yep,
And the Red Sea has an inlet with an outlet. And
yep,
so the flow that occurs in the Red Sea brings its life. The lack of flow of being able to give is what kills the Dead Sea.
that's
Interesting.
yeah.
You talked about practice too. One of the things that was coming to my mind, the difference between an amateur and a professional, is an amateur practices until they get it right, and a professional practices until they can't get it wrong.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Right?
And you're right. We in the food business, we're professionals. We got to make sure that we deliver time and time again what we promised them we were going to deliver.
Yeah, how difficult is that to make it always the same? And every time I dine in your
Yeah.
establishments, it's always the same.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
that's the perfection of it, and
Yeah.
dialing it in with the system and the formula, and always doing it right with integrity every single meal that's
Yep.
served. Right?
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, absolutely amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience as we get ready to wrap up here?
The last thing we talked about is we started during the pandemic, probably the worst year of our 36 year in business, 2020. It hasn't got quite out of the weeds yet, but we started a group called the California Love Drop. And you can follow us on californialovedrop.org and see all the things we've done. We started out because all the events, everything that I had done for 30 some years stopped. So we decided to go out and take supplies to the frontliners, the nurses, and all that. But we were missing money. So for the first time in my life, I said, I can't do it for free because we don't have any money. But all my friends said, you know what? Just like the valet parking at a gala, the centerpiece at the ball, there's money for it. So I said we don't need to make it. We just need to cover our costs. So we've done almost 140 blood drives in 4 years. We've done multiple schools, multiple hospitals, just about every police and fire station in Southern California, where we show them our appreciation for what they do in the community by delivering them meals and drinks from Monster Energy Drink, treats from Yogurtland. So it's been a great partnership. And we're getting ready to do a huge fishing tournament for the veterans called War Heroes on Water. And it's with our friends from Lone Depot, where they fly in all the different veterans that are war heroes. And we take them fishing for a weekend to show our appreciation. So
Oh,
we are on the welcoming committee. 4 years ago, they all looked at me and goes, again, you're talking about a very, very hardcore military guy from Kentucky or Tennessee. Then they see me bringing food. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then now, second year was a little hug. Last year was like, oh my God, Wayne, we love your food. So I can't wait to see all these veterans again, about 150 of them from all over the country. And this is our way of thanking them for what they've done for our country.
that is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, we've had this wonderful conversation with Wing Lam, Wahoo's Fish Tacos, and if you're here in Southern California, you know them, you've been to their places, and you've enjoyed their meals. But the gentleman himself is even more enjoyable than any meal. Wing, is there anything if folks want to get in touch with you regarding Wahoo's? Would they go still through California Love Drops, or is there
Uh,
another path to get in
they
touch?
can go to Wahoo's Fish Taco at Wahoo's Fish Taco, or my personal is at Wahoo's Wing, Wing, one word.
Okay, so it's your first name and then at?
No, at Wahoo's WAHOOS
Okay,
Wing WING. And
wonderful.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me
Ah,
LinkedIn and all the fun places. Yeah,
yeah, I would expect that you are a social media maven, or at least your organization is, with all that you're doing with the groups. But it's been a wonderful time experiencing this conversation with you. You are a man of integrity. I was delighted to have you on their show. And with that, I'm going to wrap it all up and say thank you very much. And I know that I'll be seeing you soon, my friend.
absolutely, Rob. Okay,
All right.
take care.
Take care now. Bye bye.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA. SIPC 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc.